So, hi, Science Squad. I'm here today to talk to you about why we need your mosquito habitat mapper and land cover observations. You have the Globe Observer app, and you have a project where you're looking for mosquito larvae. And so I'm talking today with Cassie Sofing and Edwin Obaji. Did I say that right, Edwin?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're talking today a little bit about data that is needed by scientists that you can collect in your community that will allow science to move forward. And, because you are all have interest in math and in science, this is a great project for you to become involved in. So I'm just going to spend about 15, 20 minutes telling you about this project and the data that we need. So I hope you have downloaded the Mosquito Habitat Mapper. It is part of the Globe Observer app. That is a data collection mobile app. It's available in 12 languages. The cool thing about the app is when you're collecting data and making your observations, you can also upload photos at the same time because photos are data. And the great thing also about this app is that even if you're working in a place where you don't have good internet connectivity, the app will work and you can collect your data. It can stay on the app, but we hope that within a week or so, you'll be able to access some bandwidth and upload your data. So you've seen the Mosquito Habitat Mapper, and today I'm showing you something new. On that same Globe Observer app, we have the Land Cover app. And this is another tool that allows you to quickly capture information about land cover so that we can understand where those mosquitoes are going to lay their eggs. And it's very easy to use. Once you get the hang of it, it takes about 3 minutes. And the only thing you need to do is collect 6 photos. What we're doing, this is the basis of the science. What we want to do is we want to understand how the places that mosquitoes lay their eggs, we call these larval habitats, how these are found on the landscape. So we want to compare where we find mosquitoes and where we find land cover. So we compare. So what we want you to do is collect data using 2 tools at one place. And this data is really important because it will help us to build better models to forecast and reduce the risk of vector-borne disease like malaria or chikungunya or dengue or West Nile virus or Rift Valley fever. Lots of diseases that mosquitoes are implicated in. And so when you use the mosquito mapper, and I know that you've been presented this information before, but there's 5 steps. The first step is where and when did you find your information? And that data will come automatically into your platform once you have signed up for the app. The second question is where did you find standing water? And so you might find a tire that has water in it. You might find a tree hole that has water on it. You might be doing research using a mosquito trap, or you might have a ditch. All these places are places where mosquito mothers lay their eggs, and it's really important to collect that data. The next step is to say how many mosquito larvae or pupa, these are 2 forms of immature mosquitoes, how many do you see? And here's the cool thing. If you find water where there's standing water, particularly in manufactured containers like cups or jars or trash or tires, if you see no mosquitoes, you can put 0 in there. And that zeros are still important data. So what we're asking you to do is to basically find all the still water potential habitats on the surface. And then we will then compare that with the ones that you actually do find mosquitoes in it. Once you have access to a magnifying device, you can actually look at your mosquitoes and see what you have. And here is the really cool thing. You see some circles here, and that's where the breathing apparatus is of these mosquito larvae. And larvae are about a quarter centimeter to about half centimeter long, which means they're macroscopic. And if you use your phone and use that digital zoom, you can tell if something is Anopheles and potentially a malaria vector because they don't have a breathing tube sticking out of it. So even if you don't have a magnifying device, you can identify your Anopheles mosquitoes. The last step, and the very important step for community health, is something called source reduction. And what you're doing is you're reducing the source of biting mosquitoes. And you do this by dumping out water that's found in containers. Now, if the water in a container is going to be used for drinking water or for agriculture or for washing or something like that, you don't want to dump out the water, but it's important to put a piece of screen over the water or a lid over the water so that water is not used by mosquitoes as a place to lay eggs, right? So that's really important. But if it's just water that's collected, because there's been rainfall and it's in a plant pot or a piece of trash that's laying on the ground, we're asking you to dump out that water and eliminate that habitat, because every time you do that, you reduce the risk of disease in your community. So our investigation focuses on mosquito larvae, and these are the immature mosquitoes that are in an early developmental stage. They live in water and they don't bite, and they don't pose a health hazard to humans. Okay, I'm going to show you now just 2 tips that will make you a super user of this app. And the first one is at the bottom of the where and when step, there is a bar that says estimated accuracy of measurement. And here it says 65 meters. What you want to do is there's a little button there that says reset. And you're going to want to press that button several times until you get the best accuracy you can. And I think that the best accuracy, if you could get 12-meter accuracy or 16-meter accuracy, that's really quite good. Most mobile devices can only give you 5-meter accuracy. So at the very, very best. So if you're getting 12 or 16, you can feel really good about that. Okay, so that's the first tip that you need to know. And let's go to the next slide, and I'll show you the second tip. And that is when you document your breeding habitat. And we talked a little bit about the crazy places that mosquitoes lay their eggs. And this is what you are actually going to record in the app. Did you find it in a cup or a bottle? Is it in a sewer drainage? Is it in a tire track, or maybe water that's being stored at a home, a discarded tire? So you want to find these places, document them, and where possible, dump the water out. And if you see a potential habitat, what we want you to do is just say yes, and then record 0 larvae. Okay, because zeros are data. So you can say yes for mosquitoes, but then say no, then the number is 0. And I'm going to tell you why this is really, really important. One thing that's happened in Africa is there is a new invasive mosquito, and it is a mosquito that can transmit the pathogen that causes malaria to humans. And the name of this mosquito is Anopheles stephensi. It is really, really different than the other malaria mosquitoes that we've always basically had in Africa. But this mosquito comes from Southwest Asia, and it has a really different habitat. So let's go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you what that is. Okay, this is where it says, can you see mosquitoes near water? And I say, do not say no, even if you don't see any, because that will get you to the next step where you can say yes. So the question is, where do our malaria mosquitoes raise their babies? And this is a picture of a malaria mosquito. There's lots of pictures in the app so that if you can use your zoom and see whether or not it has that breathing tube, you can say whether or not it is a malaria mosquito. Okay, next one, please. So this is the big question. What we know about malaria mosquitoes and the strategy we've used to protect people from disease is by looking at these kinds of habitats that we see on the left. We see them in ponds. They like to live in ditches, especially irrigation ditches, puddles, or animal tracks or vehicle tracks. So these kinds of swampy areas, these are the kinds of areas where we find these mosquitoes. But this new mosquito doesn't use these natural habitats. Instead, it uses containers. And so what we need to know, and what citizen scientists can help with, is to identify what containers do they use the most. And so if you choose artificial containers in the app, it will give you some choices. You can say, well, it's actually in a water tank, for my community. Or maybe I found it in a cistern, or maybe I found it in a jar or a trash container. There are all different kinds of things, and you can be very specific about that habitat that you see. So you can see why this is really, really important data that you can provide that will protect your community from disease. We have a new mosquito. It's breeding in places we never looked before, and people are not prepared to get rid of the mosquitoes in these places. So that's where mosquito habitat mappers come in. And another reason why we are really interested in this work, and why we are going to try and work with Mr. Abaji in getting you some microscopes, is we really need to have lots and lots of pictures of mosquitoes, because we are now working with a team that's developing a computer language artificial intelligence, where the artificial intelligence can review an image that you take using your mobile device. You upload it to GLOBE, and then the artificial intelligence will say, oh, that is Anopheles, or that is the yellow fever mosquito, or that is, in fact, this new scary one, Anopheles stephensii. So we need lots and lots of pictures of mosquitoes, and we hope that we can get you some. We need to write grants to get this, but we're going to try and get you some nice microscopes to do that. But in the meantime, just collecting the data using the app, taking pictures of the habitats, is going to give us lots of data to begin with. So here is a picture on the left of a mosquito habitat, which is just a plant pot. Here's another one. It's a little pond that was found next to an irrigation ditch. And so here's the question. Do you see why it's important to take a picture both of the close-up habitat and the land cover? And here's your answer. By looking at that picture, you might think you're in a very lush, green, forested environment. But in fact, this picture was taken really near my house. I live in rangeland in the Colorado Rockies. And so it's very dry. We are a desert, a high desert environment, but we do have nice wet places along our irrigation ditches and along our streams. And that's where this was found. So we need both resolutions of data to tell the whole story about where we're finding mosquitoes. If you use a mosquito habitat mapper, you are almost done. And now what I'd want you to do is to open up the Land Cover app, which is on the same Globe Observer tool, and collect that data. All you have to do is collect 6 photos. And if you did this, every time you find a larva habitat site, the scientists that we're working with, they are from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, the WHO, the World Health Organization, and also the National Science Foundation from the US. So they're very interested in this data that you can provide. I'll show you the Land Cover app. It's very easy to use. You may recognize this picture that you just saw earlier with the Mosquito Habitat Mapper. The first page is exactly the same. You'll want to refresh that image so you can get good accuracy. The next step is a really cool step, because what you're doing here is you're helping the scientists know what they're seeing in their satellite images. But maybe you can imagine that if you're looking at water and it's reflective, or snow and ice on the ground, it might look the same as a cloud from space. And so we need to distinguish between these when we do our satellite interpretations. So that is why this ground-based information that you are collecting using the app is good and makes sense. So the last step that you need to worry about is taking pictures. And you'll just choose take pictures up and down. And so what the app asks you to do is to take a picture going up. We have snow today, so I have a picture going down. Your phone actually has a magnetometer in it. And so it will help. It is set up so it will tell you which way is north, which way is south, which way is east, and which way is west. And all you do is you align that circle in that bar, and then it will take the picture automatically, or you can click and take a picture so that you don't have to worry, that your app will do it for you and tell you which direction you're going. And then those pictures that you're taking are going to tell us about the landscape that we have. Here's the important part. We don't want you to go and analyze the land cover. That takes a lot of steps and it takes a lot of time. And we don't need that because we're developing artificial intelligence to analyze that land cover. So just say, skip the analysis and save my photos. And then you have a choice to send the data to GLOBE right now or to send it later. And please wait and send it later when you have good bandwidth at your home or at your school or in your community. But you'll see that once you begin collecting observations, you'll be able to use the app to see where pictures have been taken, for instance, on one particular day. You'll also be building your own land cover map of all the places that you've gone to. So it's really very cool. You'll have this data set that you can show other people that you have collected. The data also goes to the database, so you can download it and analyze it using some sophisticated tools. And this is really the last thing I'm going to say, because people always ask me, okay, this is a NASA program. We know NASA studies the space. Why are they looking at mosquitoes? And the answer is you can't see mosquitoes from space, right? But what you can see using the satellites, the sensors that we have in satellites in space, is they are monitoring the environmental conditions. And so the satellites are telling us where it's wet enough, where it's warm enough, where it's humid enough, and where the land cover is right for these mosquitoes for their population to explode and cause disease. And so that's really important. And that's why NASA is very interested in your data. My last thing to say is that you, the citizen scientist in Africa, the science squad, you're making that connection between the mosquitoes that you are identifying their habitats using Mosquito Habitat Mapper app, and the land cover that you are also documenting using that app, and space, which is being documented by NASA satellites. You know, as we build up this data set, there'll be some really cool opportunities to analyze all this data together. And that's a project that I'm working on right now, is to make that available to you. It's just to let you know that we do have lots of really fun and interesting resources that you can use to familiarize yourself with issues and about diseases and mosquitoes. You can build a mosquito trap and do your own independent research using that tool. We have some games that you can play if you would like to reach out to your community and let them become more aware of the problems about mosquitoes and disease in your cities and villages. And there are also some educational materials here that are for middle school and high school students. So please take a look if you're interested in these materials. One important thing, and Edwin, I hope you know this too, if anybody's having trouble with their app, we have a help desk, and you can go to Globe Observer Help at list.nasa.gov, and you can say, my West, when I choose West, it's not lining up, or my data is not uploading, or I'm having trouble with the app, and they will help you with those individual questions. So that's a really great resource to know about.